ሰላም ተመልካቾቻችን እንደምን ሰንብታችኋል በዛሬ ፕሮግራማችን እንግዲህ ይዘንላችሁ የቀረብነው እንግዶች እዚህ ሀገር ተወልደው ካደጉ ኢትዮጵያውያን ወጣት ኢትዮጵያውያን ዩኒቨርሲቲ ተማሪዎች ወይም አሁን ደግሞ ዩኒቨርሲቲ የጨረሱ ተማሪዎች ጋር የምናረጋው ቆይታ ነው እንግዲህ እኛ ትውልደ ኢትዮጵያውያኖች እንባላለን ኢትዮጵያ ስንሄድ ልጆቻችን እዚህ ሀገር የምንወልዳቸው ግን እንደኛ ባህል እኛ ኢትዮጵያውያኖች እንደምን ራሳቸውን በዛ አይናቸውን በአሜሪካ አይን ነው የሚመለከቱትና የነሱን ኤክስፒሪየንስ ራሳቸውን እንዴት አድርገው እንደሚመለከቱ ከነሱ ጋር ደስ የሚል ቆይታ እናረጋለን ማለት ነው እንግዲህ በደንብ ፈታ ብለው ሐሳባቸውን በደንብ መግለጽ እንዲችሉ ሁሉንም በእንግሊዝኛ ነው ይሄንን ቆይታ የምናደርገው እንግዲህ እንደምትከታተሉን ተማመናለሁ እስቲ እንግዶቼን ላስተዋውቃችሁ ነው ወደ ፕሮግራማችን እንግባ Hello, Ethni and Serene. Beautiful name. It's a pleasure to have you on the program. As I mentioned in my intro, you're first-generation Ethiopian Americans. You were raised by a very, very strong single mother who gave you this beautiful, beautiful name, Ethni and Serene. I think she said, Salamina Tnakari. That's what she said. Okay, that you both are, and I love that. But your last name is Amsale. It's a little bit different. Traditionally, Amsale is a female name in Ethiopia. I know there's a story behind that. So who's going to share that with me? And then we're going to get to know you better.
Yes. So Amsale is our grandmother's name. She was a very strong woman, and she built a name for herself. She is a very business oriented person, and she started from nothing. She had struggles in her early life, but she came through it, and actually she built a community within her home, and she was taking in orphans like until the later years of her life. So everybody knows of her name Amsale. So being that my mother is her daughter and we are her granddaughters, we just wanted to carry that name further, and we feel very proud to continue that legacy.
Oh, so you wanted to honor her.
Yes.
And then you changed your last name and now
yes.
are going by Amsale.
Yes.
That's a beautiful story. So let us get to know you. You're both seniors at University of Delaware.
Yes.
Not too far from here, about an hour and a half
yes.
away. The current president is, he's from Delaware.
Yes.
So it's an important city in American history as well. So it's a pleasure to have you both here. So let us get to know you. Can you both tell us a little bit about yourselves?
Yes, so I'm a senior at the University of Delaware. I'm studying wildlife ecology and conservation.
And you're doing the same thing?
Yeah, yep.
Twins.
And we're doing the same thing. We've always had the same passion. So that's what led us to be in the same boat. I'm sure if we had different ones, we wouldn't have a problem going our separate ways. But it just so happened that we're in this together, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yes.
So what inspired you to study?
Yeah.
That is such a specific field.
Yes.
And in the U.S., at least, I mean, it might be all over the world. It's predominantly men
yes.
are in that industry. So what inspired it, such a specific major? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so when we were 6 years old, our mom showed us a couple of documentaries about the meat industry.
The meat industry?
Yes, mass meat industry and mass meat production, and we watched it, and the first thing, the only solution we thought at that age was to become vegetarian and stop eating meat, because we loved animals so much from the treatment that we saw, just the abuse in the factories, and also the hormones that they pump into the food. We didn't want to put it in our body, and our mom supported that decision, and because we love animals so much, that was the only thing that's what we felt was necessary to do. And we've been vegetarian since we were 6.
Yeah. And so that was at 6 years old.
So no meat, no dairy, no nothing, like straight vegetarian, or you do milk, or you do dairy?
We do some dairy products. We eat eggs, but we make sure it's like organic. Our mom always gave us like a balanced diet anyway, so it wasn't like, oh my gosh, like we have nothing to eat anymore. It was an easy transition, but
so I'm assuming your mom is a vegetarian as well?
She
Yes.
took to that lifestyle too. Sometimes she'll have like some kitfo here and there, but
I mean, who can resist kitfo?
Yeah, but we share the same moral intention and also like lifestyle, health and well-being. So we do that for that purpose, and because she showed us that information, and we couldn't carry on knowing what we learned at that time. So
it's an incredible decision at 6 years old to make that decision and be able to carry it through all your life. I mean, I don't know if, we understand that lifestyle as well as we think we do. Mm-hmm. So for those of us who are not really familiar, we love tzom, obviously, in Ethiopia, and everybody eats vegetarian. So it is, in a way, a tradition in a sense, but then when we go meat, we go hard on meat. Mm-hmm. So what do you think is most misunderstood about the vegetarian lifestyle?
I think the most misunderstood thing is it's fun and there's a lot of options for vegetarians, like Ethiopian food especially. I think I'm very lucky to be Ethiopian because there's a lot of vegetarian, really yummy food, a lot of lentil sauces, everything is vegetarian, it tastes really good. Also, I think there is a spirituality and a connectedness you can feel without eating meat that people who eat meat might not be able to experience. So maybe trying it could get them to want to continue that lifestyle.
And we don't judge people that do eat it. Of course, everybody's at a different stage in their life. For us, we chose it because of our encounter with the documentary. The documentary was mainly uncovering the truths of like corporate factory farming and like what usually is given to like fast food chains and things like that. So it wasn't obviously the highest quality meat, and they were showing like imagery of the animals being like beaten and tortured, and they are confined because they are trying to maximize profits. So obviously that's not the only source of meat in America, but it is a large portion of
it. That's true.
So we try to educate people when we can, and we try to just show them that this is actually a great life, and we are eating so many great foods, and foods that are like nourishing to the soul, not only the body, but to the soul.
That's fantastic. So I forgot to ask, who's older by, I don't know, 1 minute, 2 minutes?
Yes.
Oh, that's a tough one. The oldest? You're the old. Oh.
I'm 3 minutes older.
By how many minutes?
3.
Oh, 3 minutes. Oh, there you go. You got to respect that, okay? So as a first-generation Ethiopian American, how do you define your identity? Do you feel, more Ethiopian, more American, a mix of both? How do you see yourself?
I would say we have similar experiences, but I would speak for myself in this case. I feel I have both because my features, when you see me, I resemble like the East African heritage background, and I also have my American upbringing. I was born and raised in New Jersey, and every day I was listening to music from here. I was listening to music from Ethiopia in the car rides, and I didn't fully know all the Amharic words, but I loved the sound of the kerar and other instruments, and it really made me feel like it was a heartbeat, like I was hearing outside of my body. And so little things like that are kind of symbols of how I feel internally. It's hard to articulate it fully, but whenever I see other people that are from the region, or I dance with my family at family gatherings, I feel like I'm a little bit more closer to where I'm originally from, but that doesn't take away from my American identity and how I'm defining myself every day through work and school and other gatherings.
How about you? How do you balance both, or is there an advantage or a disadvantage from your perspective?
I think it's been natural for me to balance both. I feel a strong connection to being Ethiopian. I also am American and grew up in America, so I feel a strong connection. I feel a connection to America and the different cultures in America, because it's a mix of people. That's the nature of the country. But with being Ethiopian, it's always been something I've been really proud of. So in terms of balancing it, I think it's been easy, since it's something that I feel naturally gravitated towards.
That's great. That's fantastic. So we're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
We'll be back and continue our conversation. We'll be right back. So we're back, continuing our conversation with first-generation Ethiopian American. I'm absolutely enjoying this discussion because, you know, like my daughter is the same age as you are. She's 21, senior in college, like both of you. And, you know, we have so many conversations about what it means to be, for me, it's very natural. I was born there. I grew up there. So the connection to Ethiopia is real. It's something that I bring with me everywhere I go. But sometimes I don't understand how much we've influenced you, our children, and by what we say, by what we do at home. So if you visited to Ethiopia, I think you have, how did you think the perception of Ethiopians in Ethiopia were about you? What was your visit like? What was your takeaway? Was it something that you expected and what you found the same, or the experience changed you in any way?
So when we went in 2018, well, we were 14, and I felt the people didn't notice that we were from America, because it's a homogenous country. So I don't think they noticed that we were from America based on how we look and just being in the country. There's a language barrier because we're not fluent in Amharic. So, but we were guided by our mom and our family there. So in that sense, I didn't feel isolated or judged by the people, or like I was different, because we were guided in all those communications with the local people. And also, I felt I could connect to the Ethiopian people there on a human level, even though I couldn't speak Amharic. I felt I could understand based on just nods and gestures and energy, and navigate on a human level with the people. And I still felt connected to them, despite knowing I'm from America. And I felt respected and very welcomed in general by the country. We loved it.
How about you?
Yeah, so everything she's saying, I'm remembering as she's saying it. I didn't feel any difficulty. I think partly that's because we were guided throughout our time there, and we were sheltered, and everywhere we went, it was an itinerary. It was laid out and clear, and also my mom knows Ethiopia by heart. So but also from an innate feeling of just being a member of this country. I felt like I had been there before. I was hearing some of the other guests, and what they were saying was mirroring what I feel, and I just felt like I was another member of society. And there were different places that we went to. We went to villages. We went to Addis. That was the first place we saw. And all of those places, it's different lifestyles, similar to America, but I saw how I could see myself there, and I actually wanted to be, give back to those people that much more, because I saw myself in them physically, and I also saw the need, the practical need. It is a third world country, so I saw my faces, I saw my potential in them, and I honestly want them to fulfill that potential. And if we can help, if we can inspire, then that is a good job in my mind.
That's true. How about the part that you're American, you go to a major university here in the U.S. What do you think is most misunderstood within your friends? And when you talk about, hey, my background is Ethiopian, and you have to say you're an Ethiopian American if you want to, or you could say however you identify yourself. Do you think there's a major misunderstanding about the culture, about the people, and how do you see your role, how they see you, and how you identify yourself in that space?
I think the misunderstanding, I think there's a lot of, respectfully, I think there's a lot of ignorance when it comes to just international countries in general in America. So when you mention a country like Ethiopia, half of the time some don't know, but if they do, they don't know much except apart from a lot of the negative things like the famine and other stereotypes. There's so much rich history that comes to Ethiopia, and it feels, I'm so prideful of it. I could go on and on. It's also the only country in Africa that was never colonized. So when I bring that up, there is confusion because a lot of people think that there isn't any African country that was not colonized, and there is a complicated and rich history that comes with it. So they want to know more usually, and I am the human dictionary. I try to explain.
That means you read a lot.
Yeah, I try, and I'm not perfect with that. So that's sometimes maybe the challenges that come with that.
I would agree. America is a diverse place, so not only am I willing to learn from other people's backgrounds, I'm definitely willing to share because I think that's just an enriching experience. And whenever I get the question, where are you from? I like to start with where I'm from in America, just because I'm not necessarily sure what they're talking about. But if they want to know more, I'm more than willing. And
they see what's your background.
Right. Then I'm more than willing to go into that. And I tell them about our historical history, our food, our different tribes, about how all of that is beautiful. And I think we are the second most populous country in Africa. So we have a lot to give, a lot to share. And I just love being a representative of this country, of this region, and of Africa in general. Because at the end of the day, we are African, and that is how we are perceived, descendants of Africa. So I'm willing to just be a sense of inspiration for maybe other African Americans that don't necessarily know their background fully and are searching and want to feel belonging through other people, through other Americans that are making a name for themselves, but also know where they're coming from.
That's a great answer. So you told me earlier that you're studying wildlife ecology and conservation. Yes. Where do you see yourself 5 years from now? And what would you like to say to someone that's watching? What the career of a wildlife conservationist, am I saying it right?
Yeah.
Is like in the next 5 years, so you can start.
Sure. So it takes hard work and effort, as with any field that you want to get into. The reason why I got into it is because I always loved animals and being around them. And every time I saw a dog being walked, I would harass them and try and pet them. And it's hard not to love them. That is a passion that will never die out for me. So I always lead with that love whenever I am in the classroom, whenever I'm on the street, and a topic that's related to our natural world and to the many complicated issues that provides. And it simplifies it in my head, and I do see that it simplifies it to them as well. Wildlife can go into policy, it can go into the research, the field work, the conservation aspect, of course, which is a growing concern, climate change, endangered species. So that's not an issue that will ever, that's not a cause that will ever dry out for people our age to continue stepping into. But I think what is more universal for me to try and convey to our young audiences and to young people in general is that never doubt yourself.
Yeah.
Because we're lucky that we had a mother that championed us and that didn't really care per se if we were doing something that sounded good as a doctor, an engineer, or what have you. She just wanted us to be the best that what we could be, and to put our best foot forward, always be kind, and lead with our humanity. And I believe that there are good and bad people everywhere. It doesn't matter what your background is. But it makes it that much more beautiful when you're able to bear your country's name and do it as a good role model. And
that's fantastic. Yes. That's great. Where do you see yourself 5 years in the industry that you've chosen?
In 5 years, I see myself continuing my higher education, either getting a master's or PhD, or going into research. Or
so Ethiopia, with all its beautiful natural history and nature, just the abundance of nature, there's so much work you could do there as well. Have you thought about that?
Absolutely.
Maybe at some point?
Yeah, like with everything Ethiopia has to offer, it also has so much wildlife.
Yeah.
And that's something we know, and we've been applying to research programs in our choice country, which is Ethiopia, for starting after we graduate in 2025. So we will have those decisions in January, early next year. And
that's
hopefully
fantastic.
we get it.
I'm sure you'll get it. And it's going to be amazing, and maybe you'll come to tell me about it. So last question before we go. You're raised both by a very strong single mother. What do you want to say about your mom? What stands out about her for how she raised you? I'm sure there's a lot of sacrifice there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so
our mom is the
See how you both
mom.
want to say something?
Yeah,
I love it.
She is the most beautiful woman. Oh my gosh.
It's okay. It's all right. Oh.
It's okay, it's okay.
Okay, so you help.
She might also tear up.
Our mom, okay.
She's the most beautiful woman that we've ever encountered, and everything she does, she's led with love, and she raised us by herself. There was a lot that she had to go through to raise us, and she did it beautifully. She made sure that we were under her wing, and
okay, what's her fun side? Because you're going to make me cry here, and I don't want to cry here. What's the fun?
The fun side is that she's literally like 5'4" woman, like around your size, but she has no fear in her.
Good for her.
And I see on like social media, there's like TikToks of like women with their male partners, and they're like walking into roads or walking into street poles because they don't have any peripheral vision, and that's literally my sister and I when we're out with her, despite us being taller than her, because she's always been our protector, and she's very assertive. She's says what's on her mind, but she leads with love and kindness. So she's like a fierce lion, and we're her little cubs. We're like a little bit more diplomatic and quiet, and she's more like, let's handle this now. So we've definitely shared that dynamic and had a fun time growing up with that.
That's wonderful. You want to add anything to it?
Our mom always made sure to have time for us, no matter what is going on, whatever the situation, how stressed or pulled in different directions she was. As a single parent, that's inevitable. our mom always made sure to hear us, listen to us whenever we wanted to talk to her, which is a lot because we like to talk a lot, and also
and it's the two of you.
Yes, and
2 in 1.
We have a lot of needs, but I felt so heard and protected and important around our mom, because at any given moment, our mom would drop what she's doing and listen to us.
That's beautiful.
Because we were important to her, and I always felt as a priority to her.
That's That's a beautiful
and
tribute.
And we still do.
That's great.
We'll call her
with everything.
For anything, and she actually says, like, please stop, you know, like,
yeah.
You're doing a bit too much.
Yeah, I'll call my mom in the middle of the day at school and just tell her about my day, and
That's
she'll
beautiful.
answer.
We love it, by the way. So my daughter calls me almost every day, and I thought she was going to abandon me when she went to college. So that just warms our heart that, you know, we've done something right, that you want to have a relationship with us. So that's a beautiful thing. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I hope you let us know what happens after graduation. I'm so interested now that you told me. So
thank you so much for the opportunity.
Absolutely. It was so lovely having you.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll be back. Stay with us. ሰላም እንዴት ናችሁ? አስደሳች ዜና ኤምፓወር አዲስ ወደ አዲስ አበባ በሚሌኒየም ሆል ቅዳሜና እሁድ ህዳር 7 እና 8 ሰፋ ባለመልኩ ይዘንላችሁ ለመምጣት በዝግጅት ላይ ነን። እንግዲህ ቅዳሜና እሁድ ህዳር 7 እና 8 እንገናኝ። ጥያቄ ላላችሁ ምርትና አገልግሎታችሁን ማስተዋወቅ ለምትፈልጉ በዚህ ስልክ በዚህ ኢሜል አድሬስ ኮንታክት አድርጉኝ። አዲስ አበባ ሚሌኒየም ሆል እንገናኝ። All right, so we're back, continuing our conversation with first-generation Ethiopian Americans. We have an incredible young man for you now, Nathan Iyasu. He's a senior at Cornell University. You're in Atlanta now, doing a fundraiser for your nonprofit Caleb Foundation, Save Lives with Pennies. You're going to tell us a little bit about that, but first let's get to know you, Nathan. Tell us about yourself, where you were born and raised, and where you are and what you're studying currently in college.
Yeah, thank you so much for the introduction, Helen. My name is Nathan Iyasu. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm currently studying at Cornell University, specifically focused on industrial and labor relations. Have one more year left, so I'm going to graduate and come back down to Atlanta, where, you know, a lot of my community is, and a lot of the nonprofit work that I do is really focused on engaging the diaspora here in the Metro Atlanta area and getting them involved in Ethiopia. But very grateful to be introduced. Thank you so much, Helen, for having me.
My pleasure. Tell us about your nonprofit. Like we said earlier, you're in Atlanta right now doing a fundraiser. Can you tell us where it all started? Is this your own foundation and the work you've been doing, and what are you trying to accomplish?
Yeah, so just a little bit of background on the organization. Caleb Foundation Save Life with Pennies is an organization started by my mom when I was a young boy. I was probably around maybe 10 years old when she started it. And so I, you know, growing up, didn't really understand the importance of the organization as much, more so that it was something that my mom was doing to pursue her dreams of helping, you know, the communities that she came from in Ethiopia. But, you know, my passion for serving others and my passion for the organization really started when I went back to Ethiopia in 2014. And it was the first time that I saw for myself, you know, kids who were my age, you know, who were struggling in poverty. I mean, it was crazy. Like my mom had told me to bring back toys, you know, that I had in the US back to Ethiopia to give to some of the kids that her organization was helping. And so it was crazy to see, you know, like all the toys that I have, like, meant nothing to me, but to give it to the kids in Ethiopia it meant the world to them. And, you know, little things like the kids in Ethiopia are so used to like having flies at their eyes. It's things that you would never imagine seeing here in America. And so when I saw that, I came back to America knowing that whatever I did in my life was going to be dedicated to helping those same kids. And so that's really, why I've been involved since since I've been getting older. I've been using everything that I can in order to help my mom grow and develop the organization and support more kids in Ethiopia. But I mean, it's a great opportunity that I've been given because my mom started the organization. And now for me, it's all about passing that opportunity to give back to Ethiopia to other diaspora here in America.
So beside some of the challenges that you saw when you first visited Ethiopia, did you have any expectation? What are some of the fun things that you did, and what are some of the things that surprised you the most? And if you've gone back since then, what your experience has been when you returned?
Ethiopia is amazing. Every time I go back, that I'll be honest, that first time I went back in 2014, it was a shock. It was a lot of shocks, right? Because growing up in the US, there's always running water. There's always, like, you don't worry about the quality of food you're eating. And so when I went back to Ethiopia the first time, it was like, oh, you have to shower with a bucket. I was like, what? What do you mean bucket? So that was, there's shocks initially. But as I've gone back over time, like I've definitely seen changes. Like Ethiopia's been, or Addis at least, has been developing a lot. And it's always nice to go back. Like, for me, I grew up in the church here in America. And so in the Orthodox church. And so when I go back to Ethiopia, like hearing Qadasi at 4 a.m. in the morning is a very like soothing thing to see, like, very comforting. Also, like, eating in Ethiopia the food is amazing. I mean, like, diaspora in Ethiopia is like, there's nothing better to that. There's nothing beating that, right? And then like music, coffee. I love getting macchiatos from candis. So like Ethiopia it's a great place, and I love it when I go back. But of course, the first time that I went, there was definitely some culture shocks.
Do you feel a sense of belonging, a sense of this is where I'm from, so I feel like it's coming home? Because I feel sometimes, because I have children here, that dual culture and dual identity, it's different for everyone. So how do you process that? What do you feel, or what do you sense when you go back? And then also when you live here as a first generation American, how do you work through those identities?
For me, after my first trip to Ethiopia, I did feel a sense of connection to the country, and I felt like my identity ever since has really been tied to Ethiopia. And so, like, another thing that really helped me strengthen my connection to Ethiopia was growing up in the church. And so that was a really big factor. But my identity has really been tied to Ethiopia for maybe ever since that first trip. And so it's also like a sense of pride that comes when, I mentioned that I'm Ethiopian. Like, Ethiopia has so much rich history, so much rich culture that not every country in Africa can claim to have. And so I have a great time, like every time I'm in America, like sharing pieces of my culture with people who are not Ethiopian. Like, I'll never forget, I had an internship in Ghana a couple years ago. And so I wanted to take them to an Ethiopian restaurant in Ghana. And so I showed them kitfo. The idea of eating raw meat to them was so foreign. But it was funny, like seeing how they eat the injera too. Like, they were eating it like it was fufu, like their food. And so, I mean, it was a great time. And I feel like Ethiopian culture and everything that we have to offer is so amazing. And I really do feel a strong connection to it.
Okay, so what's one thing that you wish Ethiopians back home understood better about the experience of growing up as a first-generation Ethiopian American, and what do you wish they knew about you and what you bring to the table?
I would say that despite all of the maybe disconnect that there may seem to be, despite it seeming like, oh, we're very, distant from Ethiopia and the culture and everything that's happening, people here care about what's going on in Ethiopia. There's a sense of duty to give back. And I would say that, I would want them to recognize that we feel proud to be Ethiopian too. And the sense of nationality is still strong. I mean, just an example of that would be like, we have about 30 students who came and spent time on their Saturday to come to this fundraising event. And that just is, it's a small example of like the care and the sense of duty that these youth feel here in America to give back to their country and to support the country and to ultimately see the development of Ethiopia. So one thing that I would say is that, you know, there's a sense of pride of being Ethiopian here for Ethiopian people growing up in America, and that we want to give back and we want opportunities to give back. We want more channels to, you know, go back to our country to support as much as we can. So I would say that's something that we'd want Ethiopians to know.
So going back to Caleb Foundation, how do you first tell us, you know, your most recent project and the, you know, the fundraising that you're doing, what you hope that would accomplish, and then next, how do you encourage and engage other first-generation Ethiopian Americans to participate in community work, in meaningful work, but at the same time enjoying their heritage when they go back?
So in terms of projects that I've been a part of, when I got to high school, that was the moment when I started asking my mom, hey, is there anything that I can support with the organization in order to give back? And so the first thing that she told me was, yes, we have kids in our daycare who are about to graduate from our daycare and go to primary school. Can you collect some school supplies? And so my job was going to my high school and collecting school supplies from students to give back to primary school students in Ethiopia. And so that was my first ever project. And from there, I recognized the opportunity or the power that I hold to make a difference in Ethiopia. And so from there, I did a research library project where I collected laptops, tablets, keyboards, headphones to send back to Ethiopia. And from there, we partnered with, I think it's Yeka, what was it? Zeteng? I think 9 in Ethiopia, in Addis. And we set up a research library in the youth facility over there. And now I'm more so involved in like admin stuff with the organization. So I support the daycare program, women economic empowerment program, and I, you know, work on the budget and ensure that we have enough money to support our operations back in Ethiopia. So those are the projects that I've been focused on. And in regards to your second question, which is how do I get diaspora involved here in America, I started this organization called, or not an organization, a project called Kids for Kids Initiative. And what that initiative is focused on is basically giving other kids the same opportunity I was given, which is to help out in Ethiopia through our nonprofit. And so what we do is, you know, we put out a sign-up sheet for different volunteer events. Right now, there's one happening that I am at, which is the one at University of Georgia. We're working at the football game and working in the concession stand. And 10% of all the money we get goes to Caleb Foundation. And other ways include we mentor students on ways they can build a project to give back to Ethiopia. So I'm actually working on a project right now where these 2 young girls are interested in purchasing microbits to give back to girls in Ethiopia who are interested in going into science, technology, and engineering. And so that's just an example of ways that we are connecting youth here in America in order to give back. And so I think it's a very beautiful project. It actually just started last year. And I mean, the amount of impact that the project has seen, not only in Ethiopia, like helping kids in Ethiopia, but also for the kids here. I mean, it's life-changing for them too, because they recognize this is the power that we have in order to help out in Ethiopia. Like all the stuff that we see online, on social media, we're not helpless. You know, we don't have to just sit around and watch problems happen. Like we're able to, you know, get off of our couch and actually go make a difference. So I think the project is beautiful, and I'm very happy to speak about it.
All right. So one last question for you. What's the one fun place or historical place that you visited in Ethiopia that always stand up to you, and what was that experience like?
I would say, you know, I haven't been able to go to Aksum, Lalibela yet. Every time I go, I'm thrown into working on Caleb Foundation and working inside over there. But if I would say, I think I went to a church in Addis. I think it was called Salit Mirat.
Salita Marat?
Yes, Salita Mirat. Yes. I went to that church. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. And I mean the experience of being in an Orthodox church in Ethiopia, like, and hearing everyone sing Adase and like, I mean, I don't know, it was just goosebumps. And I would just love to always have that experience every Sunday. Church in America is great too, but you know, but Sali to Midet was a beautiful, beautiful church, and I'm excited to go see more.
That's fantastic. So how could people get in touch with you and get in touch with Caleb Foundation if people want to support you? Can you tell us?
You can find us on Facebook. If you search up Caleb Foundation Save Life with Pennies, you can find us there. You can also find us on Instagram, Caleb Foundation Save Lives. And YouTube, we also post on YouTube. We have a lot of YouTube videos. If you search up Caleb Foundation Save Life with Pennies, follow us on social media. From there, you can find ways to get involved. We're always posting opportunities for you to donate, for you to support any programs that we have. And also, we have a website, savelifewithpennies.org. Or if you search up Google Caleb Foundation Save Life with Pennies, you can find us there.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for your time, Nathan. I hope you raise lots and lots of money there. And I appreciate you sharing your story with us.
I hope so too. Thank you so much, Helen.
My pleasure. We'll be back with our next guest. Stay with us. All right, so we are back, continuing our conversation with amazing first-generation Ethiopian Americans. We now have Lisan Selassie from California. Lisan, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, Helen.
Wonderful, wonderful. I had the pleasure of interviewing your mom and your grandmother a while ago on a completely different topic. So it's wonderful to meet you. The daughter. So welcome to the show. So let us get to know you a little bit. So tell us about yourself. You just recently graduated from college, UC Santa Cruz, what you majored in. Let's just get to know you a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Lisan Selassie. I go by Lisi. I was born here in America and I grew up in California all my life. I just finished my undergrad, like you said, and I majored in molecular and cell biology. And I do freelance work, and I am starting to work in San Francisco in cell biology soon.
Fantastic. Do you plan on going to graduate school, or where do you see yourself in the next few years?
I see myself doing more research right now, but I think along the line, maybe I will do grad school or do my master's.
So as we're getting to know you, I'd like to ask, because you are the great granddaughter of Emperor Haile Selassie. Did I get it right? Tell us about your family a little bit.
Sure, yeah. Well, my parents are Askwal Teferi and Isaac Fikra Selassie. And yeah, so it's on my paternal side. He is my great-great-grandfather.
What do you recall growing up? What did you learn about him? What was, your father sharing about, that would be his great-grandfather, correct? So what has he shared about him to you? What do you know? What do you understand about your family, your background? Was that a conversation that was happening in the family, or you grew up and then you found out who you are? Tell us a little bit about that.
I kind of grew up not really knowing too much about my family, at least as a kid. And then probably around third grade is when we would start talking about it more, and I learned like who my father was related to, and he refers to him as grandpa. So yeah, I would begin to hear stories about them, more personal, intimate family stories, like what they did, or like the houses they grew up in, all of the siblings, how they got along together. And very fond memories I hear from my father talking about his mother, Princess Ichigayo Asawesen. And yeah, I have tons of stories that I get to listen to about them. So
That's wonderful. Do you feel that the family's legacy influenced your personal identity, or is there a sense of responsibility that you feel with that legacy?
definitely, I think I view myself as an extension of an already extraordinary and long legacy. Being a first generation Ethiopian American, I do lack the experience of growing up in Ethiopia and living there. However, in its place, I have the opportunity to listen to my parents' stories and learn about my ancestors. And yeah, I think with my family's legacy, I carry the responsibility to continue telling their stories, like to my children or to anyone who's interested to keep the legacy alive.
Is there a desire you feel like to create also your own path? Because there's some expectation and some burden that comes from that kind of legacy. Do you feel that way? Like, do you have to create your own path and your own identity in that way?
I don't feel too much pressure to make like a big stance on it or a like a prominent thing. My parents never really put that type of pressure on me. However, now that I am embracing my family name and legacy more publicly, I do feel a little bit of an undeniable weight on my shoulders. But thankfully, I have immediate family and extended family to advise me or to give me support if I need any.
That's wonderful. Have you had a chance to visit Ethiopia? When was the last time you were there, and what was your experience like?
My family and I went to Ethiopia for Habesha Genna in 2023. It was amazing. It was just a beautiful trip. We got to see family. Um, and sorry, I know this ties into another question, but um, yeah, we visited several cities like Debre Zeit, Bahadar. We didn't get to see Lalibela, unfortunately. Maybe next time we will. But we also did some community service work in Debre Barhan as well.
That's fantastic. Is that your first time visiting Ethiopia, or have you been there before that?
I've been there one time, but I was 3 years old, so I
Oh, so you don't remember anything. So what stood out? Was it what you expected to be, or what did you find most surprising about your visit there?
I had no expectations, so I just was, I had very few pictures of me and, no memory of it, so I didn't have any expectations, but I was just blown away by the hospitality and the kindness of everyone. As we exited the airport, I felt like I'd been there before. Like I didn't feel like it was a new foreign place. I felt very welcomed and I felt I belonged. So yeah, it was amazing.
And that's wonderful. What was that community service work that you did in Debre Barhan, if you don't mind sharing?
So we visited an IDP camp in Debre Barhan and we came with donations. We were part of the Asrat Foundation, in which we went to Lij Haile Mamu Timurti Beit, and we sponsored 20 orphan students for 2 years, for their 2 school years. And we also sponsored 25 women who had been affected by the war and they were rape victims. So we actually met up with two of them and we couldn't go to Shawaro Beach, which is where they were located. So we met them in Debre Bahan as well. And we got to listen to their stories, connect with them, and listen to how they were doing. And they became self-sufficient and started businesses and supported them and their children. So that was really, really great to do. Very few people get that experience, so I don't take that for granted. It was really special.
I tell you, the drive to Debre Birhan, I sit on the board of Haile Menas Academy, a school. I don't know if you had a chance to see it when you drove by there. It's such a beautiful, scenic route when, when it's, good to go. It's just a beautiful, beautiful drive. How was your experience getting to Debre Birhan?
I remember it being a long drive from the city. It was, like you said, it's very, very beautiful. I think it's kind of shocking to see the differences between how people live in the city versus in places like Debre Birhan. So it was like, yeah, it was a lot, but I just remember the drive being, I don't know if it was 2 hours or something like that, but
It was a lot. I was having a lot of conversation on my drive, so I didn't feel, but I knew it was further out for sure. That's wonderful. So you recently had an opportunity to participate. Let me get this right, because the French-speaking people are going to say something to me, but it's Le Bal de Débutante in Paris, right? For those of us who are not familiar, can you tell us a little bit about what that was, what the experience was like for you? You looked absolutely stunning. I'm sure your mother was very, very proud. So tell us a little bit about that.
thank you so much. Yeah, Le Bal is an annual debutante ball held in Paris. The founder of Le Bal, her name is Ophélie Renoir. She personally invites the debutantes to attend. So basically, a debutante ball traditionally, it's an old English tradition to kind of send off young women entering womanhood into society, but it has a sort of modern take now. Now it's a unique ball because each debutante is dressed by a different haute couture fashion house, and they're from all over the world. So I got to meet people from Europe, from Asia, all over. So in that way, it was international, and I made very strong friendships there, and it was covered by a lot of media like Vogue and Vanity Fair, Arabian Moda, and yeah, it was just an amazing experience, and I'm so happy that my family could join me too. It was really fun.
How are you selected to be presented as a debutante there? Is it does somebody nominate you? Do you get selected? How does that process work?
I think it's different from, well, it varies, but for me, she saw me through my mom's social media page and she reached out there. She thought I was interesting, so and then that's how the invitation arose. Um, yeah.
And then they talk about your family history and your background as part of that coming out process, correct?
Yes. I think it was maybe a post that my mom made on like a royal page. I forget exactly what it was, but I think that's what it was.
That's wonderful. I'm sure you enjoyed it, and I'm sure your family enjoyed it. I don't know if other Ethiopians in the past have been able to participate in this, but such a fun and a beautiful way to represent yourself. Were people there familiar with who you were, who your family was, or no?
Actually, yes, there were some people who knew my family and approached me, and it was great. I didn't know that I would have like mutual connections there. Um, yeah, and I am humbled to have been the first Ethiopian to attend Labal. I got the opportunity to represent Ethiopia, and hopefully I did it well.
You are like Ethiopian American, like many of our other guests on today's show. What do you think would be, or what would you say is the most rewarding or challenging aspect of representing your Ethiopian heritage or understanding who you are as an Ethiopian, and then also your dual identity as American?
Challenges, I think, arise when you're trying to navigate the different social norms and the different formalities. Like Ethiopian culture, we're super formal, and especially to our elders and how we communicate. American culture is much more casual and yeah, so those types of challenges arise, and also like Ethiopian culture, we value different things. Like we value religion a lot. And I think the most shocking thing when I went to college, my freshman year, is just how many people are just they don't believe in God at all. And I was like kind of scared, but no, it obviously it takes time to adjust. Um, but yeah, the different values are probably the most challenging part. But the advantages are that you can share Ethiopian culture with non-Ethiopian friends in America, and it allows them to learn more about our country and open important conversations. And as Ethiopian Americans, we also have a more nuanced perspective on life because we have been exposed to two different languages and two different cultures. So we have a broader view of the world.
You bring up a very important point earlier when you said you were kind of shocked as a first-year college student, how much different the culture is from what you were raised with at home versus what the U.S., what the world, what the Western world is. So any advice that you give? I mean, my daughter is graduating from college this year, but I have a son that's 17-year-old. What advice do you give us to prepare our children to be ready for college from a social aspect?
I think as long as you're level-headed and you have a good foundation, one that cannot be like shaken or influenced, as long as you have your core values and you build a community with people who are like-minded, um, you will be good and you will have comfort and sending your children to college or letting them become independent because you know that their way of thinking is basically you poured into them what you want them to be, right? And like I know in America we're pretty an independent society and in Ethiopian culture we do everything together. We're very communal. So yeah, I think building a community and a strong base is the most important thing. And obviously faith in God, I think, is the most important thing.
That is true. So you take the best of both worlds and make something that you want out of it. So thank you for your time, Liz San. It's such a pleasure talking to you, and good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Wonderful. All right, and that is our show today. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week.